Hello and welcome to 18 WJTS in.form. It's now part 2 of our Crisis Connection discussion. Joining us in the studio is Beth Stein. She's the Executive Director for Crisis Connection. And joining us is Kris Lasher. Kris is a Victim Services Coordinator for Crisis Connection. And we thank both of them for being on the show. Now, if you tuned in last night, we talked about what Crisis Connection is, kind of more of the numbers of what Crisis Connection does. But today we're going to talk about what is domestic violence and what makes somebody an abuser, what are things that you can look for, and can somebody stop? So first of all, I guess what is an abuser? Who is an abuser?
An abuser can be any of us, okay? The thing we all have in common is that we're human, okay? So it doesn't matter if you're male or female, it's the idea that somewhere along the line in your life you learned that this is how you deal with people, and this is how you hang on to someone in a relationship, is that you take control of them or try to take control of them, okay? It's basically, I equate it to, it's also someone who wants their way at any cost, okay? So I equate it to about a 2 or 3 year old child, okay, but now who is an adult, the mentality of that, because they will do temper tantrum to get their way, and their temper tantrum, unfortunately, is much more dangerous than a 2 or 3 year old's temper tantrum. Okay, because we're talking, and so when you look at it in that respect, you think, really, this is ridiculous, and only if the abuser themselves could actually see a picture of themselves. I think that would be really interesting to see their reaction to themselves, of what they look like, what their face looks like. If anyone saw Monsters, Inc., and when the part about when the big fuzzy blue guy was teaching his other people how to scare, and the little girl saw him and began to cry, okay, that is what a child sees. They see you in as a monster, as somebody that is not you anymore. So if only someone could see that. It is learned behavior, very definitely.
But it's a fine line, is it? Because everybody argues. Humans argue with each other. They disagree with each other. You see that, and in every relationship, there's going to be disagreement. And I guess in a way that kind of makes it healthy if you can discuss things. At what point is it too much? Is it violence? Is it abuse? Okay,
and when you're talking about somebody having a disagreement, okay, are things flying around the room? Are names being called? Are you just stating your point and pretty adamant about that point? Do you finally agree to disagree, or are you agree to discuss it when, okay, maybe we need to both think about this and come back to it? People who want their way will go to any extent to get their way. That means, okay, if I'm not getting your attention by me just saying this is what way it's going to be, then I will begin to belittle you and tell you how stupid you are, how fat you are, how what a bad mother you are, what a bad father you are, how awful you don't make enough money. Anything you hit, anything that is going to, is going to hurt. Okay.
And I guess if you go
and what's that got to do with the discussion? That has nothing to do with the discussion. It's about, this is what I want, so I'm going to hit you below the belt type thing. I'm going to tell you that you're wrong. Something's bad wrong with you.
Definitely. Couples have fights, but if one is afraid of the other, that's a sign that that's not really a balanced relationship.
I grew up in an abusive home, okay? When I was first married and my husband and I actually had our first disagreement, and we were discussing something and his voice got to a certain level, I began to cry. And of course, he looked at me like, what in the world? And at the time, I didn't quite know. It took me a while to realize, oh my gosh, I thought craziness was going to happen, okay? Because I knew what happened after that. When the voices got to a certain level, things got weird. Guns came out, people ran around chasing each other. It was craziness. So, yeah.
It's that going a little bit too much.
A little bit too much,
okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but it's about getting their way.
Now, what can the public do to help to stop domestic violence and abuse? And I keep saying violence. It really doesn't always come down to violence, because it could be emotional.
Right.
It could be verbal. What does the public need to do?
Don't minimize it. Don't minimize it. You hear voices, people yelling and screaming on a regular basis, and the next door neighbor called the police. They may choose to not do anything, but you're given the message that, okay, this is not acceptable behavior, nor do I want my children listening to this. Because your children are hearing somebody else's stuff. Yeah, people shouldn't be doing that. That's my opinion, of course, but to me, that's just, when you start to affect other people besides just your family, then, hey, that needs to stop.
Okay, if someone is being abused, or I guess if you're a neighbor and you see abuse, you call the police, because it's really not for you to get involved. It's more for you to get involved by calling the police and let them take care of it.
Because it could be dangerous to go over there and try to intervene.
What if you're the person being abused? What options do you have? And I don't want anybody to know that I'm seeking help. Is it anonymous? Tell me about what work. This is where Crisis Connection does your work.
Right.
Yes, I mean, we maintain regular office hours, but we have a 24/7 hotline. We're an advocate, whether I'm one. We have Patty, Julie, Rachel, or Chris. Those are the 4 people that you could potentially end up talking to if you need some help. And we have an 800 number. Everything is 100% confidential. We don't share anything unless you've given us written permission to share it. And then there are times when people want to share that we really discourage them to just keep this to yourself. So, I mean, as far as, whether it be with legal things. So we advocate. We come to court with people. They can sit down. We can help create safety planning. So whether a person is interested in, I need to get out of this situation and I don't know how, they can call us. We can sit down and talk with them. We can help them figure out what it is that they want to do and how to make that happen. If they don't want to get out of the situation, but they want to be safer, we develop safety planning. This is how safe can we keep you in this environment if you feel like this is where you need to be. And we also discuss the impact on children and how to best serve children that are in this environment as well.
Do you ever find that people will call and not want to give too much information at first, just to kind of to find out? I guess people could do that. They could call the Crisis Connection and say, I think this is what's happening. I don't want you to know my name. I don't want to go any further than this, but can you tell me about my situation?
Absolutely.
Is that probably the most common, maybe?
It happens frequently. I think we have developed enough of a rapport that people realize we're not going to say anything. We're not going to call the spouse or a family member, or even if we know someone. We all have significant others at home that have no clue, because we don't bring it home. No one knows who has called us, and that is part of what we feel like is the best gift we can give to a victim, is that they have our complete confidence. And so, yes, we do have that happen where someone wants to be anonymous, and we respect that and help them as best we can with whatever information they choose to give us.
Okay, this may be kind of, I'm trying to ask this the right way. When should somebody who's being abused call? Do they call right when abuse is happening, or should they be calling maybe a day later away from that partner? I mean, obviously you can't make that phone call with the partner there, because that would just put gas into the flame.
Sure, I've had that happen. And I agree with you. I would say, if someone is in danger, in physical danger, in harm's way, or a child's in harm's way, please call 911 first. Please let the police are trained to intervene in something that is harmful, physically harmful, and then follow up with us so that we can help move things forward from there. Because if there's something going on and the person is being physically abused and they call us, we need the police there. And so 911 is the right call to make first.
How far will Crisis Connection help people? It may be the phone call that just simply says, well, you are in an abusive situation, you need to consider these options. Or, I mean, you'll go to court with them? You'll come and get them?
Yes.
Okay,
not from their house.
Okay,
For all of our advocates, we want to make sure that it's a very safe environment. Okay. So we meet at a location that the perpetrator is not there. So,
and then but I guess you can get them out of that situation, and you take them. Is there a home they can go to? If somebody's in a really bad situation and wants to get out and get away, which is probably the best option, what can they do?
Well, part
Or
of
what
it,
happens?
that's part of the beauty of encouraging people to call long before you've made that decision that, hey, I've really got to get out of here. Because once it's gotten that bad, then you're having to make decisions under duress. You know,
Okay.
you're changing your whole life and your kids' whole life under duress. It's makes much better. If you are beginning to suspect that there's abuse in your relationship, call us and talk to an advocate and start making a safety plan. And what sort of things, and so you can also help realize how it's going to affect your life. You choose to do this. Okay, you've got to think about your income, you've got to think where you're going to live, you've got to think about where the kid's going to go to school, or you're going to try to stay in this community. What sort of things are you going to have to change to make that happen? And, you know, and quite frankly, that's one of the most dangerous times is when people leave, because if that person doesn't want you to leave, he's
not
not
gonna let you
going to make it
leave.
easy.
Yeah, okay.
He or she is not going to make that easy. That's when stalking happens, and people just, you know, people say, oh, just leave, you know, they should just leave. Well, that's not as easy as it sounds.
Is there ever a point where the abuser themselves goes, boy, I got a problem, I need to stop, I need to call Crisis Connection to see if I can find help for myself? Does that happen?
Is that a trick question?
Yeah, that's a trick question.
Actually,
awesome.
I'm sure there are some that have done that.
But generally they deny it.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. Typically, because we offer services for batterers, but those so often are ordered by the court because of a criminal case, or the Division of Family and Children has gotten involved with the family and they've said, you must go. It would be awesome, actually, because I can't fathom that a batterer in a situation is happy either. If they say, I don't know what's going on with me, but I don't like this and I want something to be different, we would absolutely welcome that, though it's not the norm.
Okay, now we kind of talked about neighbors hearing something or seeing something or just in public somewhere. How important a role does family play in stopping abuse?
Yeah, family can either make it worse or be a help, that's for sure. Because if whoever the family is of the abusive person sometimes can be exactly where that person learned this behavior, okay? Not always, but they learned it somewhere, okay? And so the person that has the family that is like, what in the world is this? You know, so shocked by people acting this way. And that's the other thing, is those people can call us and talk about what it is they can do, because the only thing they can really do is offer support and say, you know, you can't tell them what to do, but hey, you know, make sure they have our phone number and know that, you know, they can just talk. You know, just because you call Crisis Connection doesn't mean we're going to come get you and whisk you away somewhere. It is a beginning of a conversation. So like I say, it's a beginning of a process of understanding what's going on in your life, and that some decisions will need to be made at some point.
And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but we've been talking about the 800 number a lot.
Mm-hmm.
What is that 800 number?
Oh, sure. You'd think I'd have it memorized, but I'm going to, just to make sure I get it right. It's 800-245-4580. And we actually have an answering service. So if someone calls in the middle of the night, they'll get someone that answers the phone. If you say what you need, they'll say, let me connect you with an advocate. And if whichever one of us is on call, we'll get that phone call no matter what time of day or night it is.
Or it's one of our volunteers
Yeah.
sometimes takes the night.
Now, I don't have that phone number in my pocket because I don't keep it and I don't remember phone numbers. Could they call 911 and get that number? That's a number people need to know. I know you shouldn't call 911 unless it's an emergency, but
our local law enforcement has
Okay.
it.
Right.
I mean, our local law enforcement is supportive of what we do, and so you could call just the police station number and get it. You could get online to our website, Crisis Connection Inc., and that would .org, and that would have that number on there as well.
okay. And do you need help from the public? Do you need volunteers? Do you
Yes.
need,
Always,
obviously, everybody
yeah.
needs money all the time. Okay, but
Absolutely,
but truly
yeah,
you do,
yeah.
because I know you have little moving packets. I don't know what to call it. But it's got toothbrush in it and
Oh,
toothpaste.
yeah,
and,
that's actually
you know,
for
there's things
sexual
like
assault
that. Okay.
client. Yeah, for sexual assault
So there's
clients.
a lot. I mean, you do a lot of different things, and it takes money to do some of what you do.
Right.
And
right.
volunteers.
And volunteers, yes. We would love to. We used to have a lot more people committed to taking the training to be an actual hotline volunteer to answer some of those calls. We are not as fortunate as we used to be in the beginning. Because like I say, there was 25 of us in the beginning doing that. And now there's just a handful. So that certainly is something that's changed over the years. So we could, certainly somebody that would want to be committed to do that.
Okay, and contact Crisis Connection, find out.
Definitely.
Okay, more information on their website.
Yes.
Ladies, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have been talking about Crisis Connection, and if you or someone you know is in a situation, please call Crisis Connection. They'll be glad to help you out. We've had as our guest the Executive Director of Crisis Connection, that is Beth Stein, also the Victims Services Coordinator, Kris Lasher. Thank you for watching WJTS in.form. We're local people watching local people.